Hey guys, this is Chesney Hawks here. You are watching My Hammers 11 with the one and only Russ.
He's back. It can only mean one thing, Anton. Another My Hammers 11, mate. My Hammers 11. We've got a big one today, ain't he? We got a big one. We got a big one. Is he in your 11?
He is in my 11.
He's in my 11 too. He's in my 11 too. So we're a little bit like schoolboys, to be honest. But we've got this man coming on the channel. Oh, Cole.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Buzzing, mate. Buzzing to get you on finally, man. As I said, yeah, you're in my Hammers 11. You're in Anton's My Hammers 11. Pretty much, well, everyone you played with, you've been in their 11 as well, I think, mate. And
that's amazing. That's fantastic. That is. I'm well pleased with that.
And all like the fans as well. I mean, we've had probably about 500 interviews where we've spoken to people, and I reckon, yeah, there's because we do it based on players that they've seen play. So
yeah.
So you know, to be honest, most people seen you play, whether it's your first spell or second spell. So yeah, I reckon I want to say, well, I think it's you and Julian, and you know, and Billy Bonds, and it's like yeah.
Mate,
that's
amazing.
If you've got the top 11,
that's amazing.
You've got the top 11, Joe. You're definitely in that. Absolutely.
Mate, honestly, I'm well chuffed for that. I really am. Do you know what I mean? That's to be mentioned next to them type of players. That's fantastic.
No, it's cool, man. Now, Anton's just about to go to work. Do you want to ask a question before we go? Go on.
Yeah, do. You know, Joe, listen, mate. I'm like a kid in a sweetie shop right now, and that's you sound
like you're from the East End, like a true hammer.
Hammer. True hammer.
Yeah, I've got my dad's from the East End, mate. So that's where the connection is. But growing up, like literally following the club from a kid, it's just been unbelievable. I've just turned 40 and I'm still acting like a kid in a sweetie shop, mate, when I'm talking to you. But I appreciate you coming on and spending the time with us.
My
and
pleasure.
I'm going to be going soon. So, no, I just really wanted to say thank you very much for all your service to the club. I love when you talk about the club. You can, for many people, especially in the modern day, that know your history with West Ham, but not so many other people know that when you left West Ham and then eventually you came back, they think about other clubs like Chelsea and your history with other clubs, etc. But the first question and my last question before I leave is, when Chelsea came in for you, it must have been full of mixed emotions for you because you love the club, but also you had to further your career as an individual. So how do you feel about that?
Yes. I mean, it's a real tough time to explain for any footballer, and I was in a unique position, particularly because at the time West Ham was all I'd known. You know, it'd been amazing, but it ended sourly because of the relegation, and I was 21 as a captain, so I felt a massive amount of responsibilities. And looking back on it now, with the eyes of the 2023. No, I was in a really sort of dark place when we went down. You know what I mean? It really sort of affected me, and I had that aspirations where I wanted to play for England. I wanted to go to World Cups and I wanted to win trophies, and also that the club at the time, Terence, they had to sell me.
Yeah.
They had to sell us. That fans don't. At the end of the day, it's a business, isn't it? And you're an asset. When you break it down. So I knew that the club wanted to sell me, but I'm not going to come here and lie. It's such a fine. When I was talking about Deck and his situation. I mean, you've got a finite career, and as kids, you want to be playing in the Champions League, and I'd love to have done it with West Ham. And you know what? In another alternate universe, if someone would have come into the club and recognised the young players that they had there at the time and built round it, the whole footballing landscape could have been different. Because I'm sure if we'd have all stayed, I've played with top players throughout my career, the best in the world, and let me tell you, like Rio, Frank, Michael, Jermaine. You know, we could have, coupled with some senior players, could have done something special, but it wasn't meant to be there, and nobody had the. But so it was a real tough time for me to leave. It really was. But like I said, I had that burning desire to go and win trophies, and I knew the clock was ticking.
Yeah. And Abramovich had just taken over at Chelsea as well, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of money being pumped into
Yeah.
the club. So,
And the thing is, I think we as fans like appreciate that 100%. And the fact now, you know, we listen to you when you talk and you're following the club left, right, and centre. And everyone knows that. It was just always intriguing to know how it must have been a mix of emotions.
Yeah, it was. It was a real mix of emotions. I mean, people who I think, you know, people who followed me, who watched me play, West Ham fans, Chelsea fans, Lille fans. You know, the clubs where I've done well, Lille, and you know, I couldn't not play with passion, and I had to feel it when I played for the club. You know what I mean? And that was easy when it come to West Ham because I was there from a kid. You know what I mean? And there was a genuine affinity and love for it, and it still is to this day. And the same goes. I know West Ham, it's a West Ham show, but Chelsea's the same.
Yeah.
West Ham, Lille in France. I mean, I was only there for a year, but that club had a real effect on me because that sort of rekindled my love for football. I learned so much there. And my last club, Tampa. I mean, they were the clubs where, you know, in Coventry, so it's only really Villa and Liverpool that I didn't really connect with. And you know what? I didn't play well there, and I didn't connect with the clubs. I couldn't get that
buzz.
You know, that
connection.
Spirit going with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go on, Ansel. You go to work now.
Listen, I'm going to go, Joe. It's an absolute pleasure.
I won't keep you.
Thank you for spending time.
Okay, that's it. Get rid of the Scott. There you go. Get rid of the Scott. Let's get a couple of people down here talking. You don't need subtitles now.
Yeah.
I'll take that question out.
Sorry, I've got the world's biggest cup here. This is the hold on one second.
That's right, man. So that's got a bit deep. I was going to sort of go a bit fun.
Yeah, well,
ain't it? He's only got.
We'll have some fun now.
We'll have some fun now, right? So, do you know what? Obviously, as I said, you know, at the moment, you know, I'm loving the whole. And actually, I know Anton's just turned 40. Your brother from another mother, Carlton Cole's turned 40 today.
I know. It's incredible, isn't it? Like, he looks so well, doesn't he, Colton? I said to him, I don't know what you're like, what workouts you're doing, what you're drinking. He looks unbelievable, the big man.
If they ever, I've always said, if they ever remake the film Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, you two, man, you're in. That's it.
That would make me Danny DeVito. I was Riggs and Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. That's what I prefer to be. He can be Danny Glover. Danny Glover.
That'll be better, man. No, but I mean that's one of the highlights for this whole European adventure we've been on the last few years is you two. You know, on the pitch, you know, for the final, and just knowing what the club means to you, and also to Colton as well. Yeah, mate, it was incredible. I rewatched the interview you did with Deck on the pitch, and you could just see the joy out of you two as well. You know, it's just an amazing experience, man, and it's great. You guys have so much passion for the club, and it comes through, and it's a joy to watch, mate. It's a joy to watch. I absolutely love it.
Do you know what? I think my most, since I finished football, that's the best. Following West Ham and that campaign with Colton is my most. It's the most favourite job I do. It's brilliant. He seems to know Coley, every West Ham fan.
He does,
whenever we go away, he knows everyone, and he's just a brilliant. I love going on Thursday nights. Him and Jules and Bex, and you know, and then Jules is a Brighton fan, and Bex is Man United, and they love West Ham. Let me tell you, they pretend they don't, but they love it. That's their most. And we had such a good team, and it was such a great journey. And when it just, you know, the cup final. You know, Coley just lost the plot when Jared scored, and we're broadcasting for about 20 minutes, and he just gone. He'd gone. He was like, I don't know where he was. He was jumping. He was brilliant. So I love working with him, with the big man.
The big man's great fun, and he's one of those guys. There's certain guys who just walk in and he just lights up a room, doesn't he? He just lights up a room, and happy birthday to him. This will probably go after his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
I love Coley. Actually, I think when I interviewed him in his mum's house.
Yeah.
Just like so cool. So right, let's go right to back. Let's talk about West Ham. Right to the back. Obviously, youth team, age of 9, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was actually later than that. It was about, because I didn't start too late, so I didn't get into West Ham till I was 11 or 12. I didn't play competitive football, until I was just gone nearly 11. So just 10. And that's really late considering nowadays it's like an operation. So, but and I had the chance to go. It was like I had the chance to go to every club, and I did. I had a great time. I was going around all the clubs. I guarantee you, there's footage of me playing in every shirt in the 90s in teams in London, and I could have gone anywhere. I could have gone anywhere, but I chose West Ham because my dad just said, "Listen, where do you like going most? Where are you most happiest?" And it was West Ham. It was people like Jimmy Hampson, Jimmy Neighbour. Who else? Tony was there. Tony Carr, Paul Effer, Brian Nichols, Peter Braybrook. Peter Braybrook was my guy. All these names from the past, they were the coaches, and then Harry and Billy Bonds and all that. It all just seemed like a family, and the people spoke there like how I spoke.
Yeah.
And my dad spoke, and it was like, Arsenal was a bit school teachery at the time.
Yeah.
Tottenham was a bit of a mess. It was like they was a bit sort of FA, and West Ham was just like how you expect. Everyone envisages West Ham,
exactly.
and them characters was how it was, and I just loved it. And I thought, and it was always good. It was always. I looked at everywhere else, but it was always going to be West Ham. From the start. Yeah.
And you mentioned Tony Carr, obviously, the impact he had on, your career early doors, particularly, in the academy. I mean, I remember when we interviewed Tony for his Miami's 11, it was, I said, right, you could add anyone you've trained. Yeah. And it was literally the 2010 World Cup squad. It was like fucking ridiculous. Yeah. I even let him have JT in there because, I let him have it because he trained at West Ham.
JT played for West Ham. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, but what a guy Tony is, man. Isn't it? I mean, he's just got loads of time for TC. Yeah. Lovely man. So obviously you joined club, he's at 11 or 12 in academy, working your way up.
Yeah.
Now I remember specifically you signing your signing your pro deal on the pitch. I think it was a Chelsea game actually, if I remember. As a teenager. I mean,
which wasn't unusual. It wasn't then. No, you're right. It wasn't special to me. Every player who signed a pro deal would go on the pitch and sign. You know what I mean? But it just seemed like because it was me, and a lot had been written about me before that. It was made big, and I think the Chelsea game was a big game as well. Maybe it would have been on Sky as well. Do you know what I mean? It just seemed like it was that was a surreal experience. To go out there and just be presented as a kid, you know what I mean? I was in the stands literally the game before, and nobody would know who I was. And then you got the whole of Upton Park applauding you, and mate. So that was a surreal experience. Yeah.
Did you feel that weight of expectation from the fan base and stuff? Because obviously you're right. I mean, we knew about you. I mean, nowadays, if you was like playing now, obviously we'd have probably known about you since you were 10.
Yeah.
With TikToks and YouTube.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we still knew Milk Cup and coverage and stuff like that. We still knew about you. We knew there was this kid coming along. I mean, you're only a couple of months younger than me, but there's this kid coming along, and he's going to be the next Gaza, and and he's like for a 16, 17,
So it was a lot of expectations. Of expectations. People always ask me the question, how did it affect you? And you don't know, because it's just the path you tread, ain't it?
Yes,
I mean, I don't know. I look back on it now, and I'm pretty sure the club, myself, with what we know, would probably have handled it differently. That's why you've got to look at like Alex Ferguson, the way he handled the young players. He was so good. He kept them out. Man United was set up for nurturing. West Ham was just like I said, and it was what I loved about West Ham. It was the beauty. Like, I wouldn't change it for a world. And what I would say is about the club is every player who's played for the club that I've spoke to, and there's a lot of players. No, I'm not talking about players who were there for a long time, like myself, or I'm talking about players who sort of pass through, like your Robbie Keanes, or players, whether they do well or they don't do well, they love it. It's just it's
very
always been a
true.
fun club to play for.
Yeah,
But
that's really true.
But I think West Ham. It was looking back with hindsight. I think both parties, I think West Ham and the people in charge would have handled it differently to a young. If I was coming through now.
Nowadays, you're right with mental health and stuff like that, and player welfare. I mean, there was no player welfare really there.
Yeah.
And as you said, 16-year-old kids, like, I mean, nowadays it's a picture with Kenny or Mark or Trevor on the website. Kids signed. Dan Riggs signed his first deal the other day. Just a picture of him at Rush Green. So it was handled differently. But it was a good point. I forget they get those two ground staff had to get a little shitty table out, didn't they? Bless them.
Yeah.
And stuff into the ground, big divots afterwards, I'm sure. But if I remember, you talked about Man United. Weren't Man United trying to buy you beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, apparently I went up to Man United and one of the I went up to see. I played for Man United a few times. I loved it up there. It's a great club.
Yeah,
Alex Ferguson. This is why he was the best. Like, when you think about it, he was going for titles and everything like that. And it wasn't just me done this to loads of players. He'd made you feel so welcome. We went up there, took me down to Carrington. I met all the players. All the players I ended up playing with, like your Scholes, your Nevilles, your Butts, Cantona. Cantona was one of my heroes. Love watching him play. And then he was just brilliant. He was brilliant, Ferguson, and he made you feel welcome. We sat in his office after a game. We had, he offered my dad a glass of wine, and it was like the only other club that looked after me, because they were pitching, weren't they?
Yeah.
Was Man United. That's why he's the best. He's got one eye on some 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, whilst going for the Premier League title.
And that came through. That came through on the Beckham documentary on Netflix at the moment, because Beck talks about literally was in the dressing room with Brucey and stuff, and they're like, you must be fucking good if you're here, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they did it with all the top young players. They would do it, and that's why they was getting the top players. It was nothing to do with, and obviously being Man United and the lure of it was easy to do, but it was always going to be West Ham for me, and that was just a feeling that I got in and around the place.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. And obviously, you signed the deal, but obviously, in between that, you got the. We had quite a few of the boys on for the '99 Youth FA Cup. Obviously, we won it again last year, but I mean that squad, those boys. I mean, we've had a few of them on. What I mean that to be honest, again there was that famous. You got the game at Upton Park where. They opened up one stand, and then by the end, every stand was open, and they were calling the pitch. I mean, as a youngster, with those boys there, that was a hell of a memory to have. At such an early age as well. That Coventry game as well. I
know.
Yeah, look at that Barnet.
It's fantastic, isn't it? I didn't know I wore the number 8 shirt. I mean. That was one of my favourite memories in my football career, because to doing that with the players I've played with since I was 12.
Of course, yeah.
All of them, and we wanted to win the FA Youth Cup, and we was the best team around all the way through. But we nearly got knocked out in the first round at like Macclesfield or something like that.
Yeah, Bertie said that. Yeah.
It was like horrendous. Like I was at the time, I was already with the first team. I was coming back to play for the youth team, which was a difficult. For a young player as well, because your head's like, I don't want to be playing like Macclesfield away. I'm playing with. So anyway, we got a right telling off in that game, and sometimes when you're going to win trophies and anything I've won in my career, you look back, and it's always an element of luck involved. And we should have got knocked out by they were a gang whoever we played, and we. I can't even remember it was. It might have been Stockport or something. Yeah. And they nearly done us. And it would have been a travesty, and we would never have had that brilliant night at Upton Park, which some of the lads, it was the biggest night. And it's amazing people still talk about it now, because it was so unique, wasn't it? Like the game.
Crazy. I mean, you could have slight parallels to obviously last year when the under 18s won it, and I was there in the Emirates. There was probably about 7,000 West Ham fans, a kids game in essence, and yeah, there was still sort of, you know, it was amazing. But yeah, that was. But that just epitomised, as you said, that golden age. You know,
Yeah.
we've had one or two, we had a few players come in, but as you said, so you talked about Rio, you talked about Frank, you talked about Carrick in there yourself, Richie
Yeah.
Garcia. You know, I mean, I think everyone in that squad went on to play pro.
Yeah.
Some guys, whether it was Izzy who dropped to Swansea
Yeah.
or someone like that. So it's amazing. And as you said, you know, you were playing first team. You know, obviously it was good. You know, your home. I think your Premier League debut was away to Man United, ironically, which is quite fun.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about is your first Premier League goal, which was, if I remember, a little game we still talk about. Bradford 5-4, man.
Yeah.
We had Paolo. Went to a Paolo night the other night. Di Canio was at Brentwood.
He was in Brentwood. Yeah.
He was with TC.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, my
Fantastic.
friends went. Yeah.
Fantastic night.
Yeah.
Really, really good dude. And he spoke about that. We've had people like, we had Shaqs on. We've had Monks. We've had, although Shaqs didn't play much that game, to be honest. We had you know, Stevie Bywater and stuff like that. But still, that was one of the craziest games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, definitely one of the craziest games I've ever played in. Like, I mean, you don't really appreciate. Sometimes at Upton Park there were certain games when the crowd was so in it and the stadium was so old that it felt like the place was rocking. You're on the pitch and you felt like these, and that was one of them games, like, because you felt the anger from the fans because we wasn't playing well. You felt the tension, you know. I knew something was going on when Paolo was doing what he was doing. I didn't know exactly, because you don't know you're playing. He just walked off in the game. Like, where's he gone? And then like, you sort of, as a youngster as well, you the mental concentration it takes to play. It's like when you get older, you can sort of you can manage your concentration, so you get to see, you pick up things. But I was so involved in the game, I didn't know what was going on. I remember just Stevie Bywater, who I've been obviously in the youth team goalie and went on to have a great career. He had an absolute mare, didn't he? He was you know, I think that must be so hard for a goalie to come in to make your debut in any, but to do it when the goalie gets injured in the middle of a game in chaos like that. It was chaos. It was like, it was just end to end. And you know, they weren't. They had some good players. You know, Dean Saunders was playing.
Lawrence.
Jamie Lawrence scored a couple of goals or something. You know, like they was all right, but we should have been out of sight with the quality we had on the pitch. Yeah. But we just made it like it was, and then to score the first goal, the fourth goal, the equaliser. You're thinking, wow, we've got away with one here. We've not got beat at home. Yeah, and it was amazing. And then Frank scored the fifth, and the place just erupted. And I remember getting back to my house and just like still being the adrenaline just going through you. It was incredible.
It's mental. And I think that to be honest, that game epitomised that sort of Redknapp era in that you had. It was. I mean, I as from a fan, I mean, that's my most, well, probably up until now, one of my most enjoyable times as a West Ham fan.
Yeah,
it was like a soap opera. You know, you had Di Canio, you had like the young pretenders like you guys, you had the older guys.
Yeah.
In that game, you had John scoring, and then literally the next kick giving away a penalty. You had the goalkeeper getting injured, a young pretender coming in. You had the fight between Frank and Di Canio for the penalty.
Yeah,
and. Oh mate, it was. I mean, as a fan, that was mental. What was it like going to training every day with playing with people like Di Canio and crazy people like Monks?
It weren't until honestly, I'd gone to Chelsea, I realised how mad it was, because
because you're in it. I suppose you're in it.
You're in it. It's like, this is professional football. You know, Neil Ruddock taking me out on a Tuesday night, and you know, me and Michael, we had a young group of players, all making money, all in the public eye. Me and Michael played in the England squads early, so we had a great time off the pitch as well. That's for sure. You know what I mean? I moved into a place with my mum and dad and family, and then Michael, because he's obviously family's up in Newcastle, he was like, it's 5 or 6 doors down. So inevitably, you know, the parties would end up at his house, but I had the luxury of just wandering back to my mum and dad's house and getting cooked a nice cooked breakfast in the morning. So I had the best of both worlds. I didn't have to worry about cleaning up. I just, you know what I mean. So I had the ejector seat at any point, and just
Love
to
it.
go home and swim. Like, so it was all going off, and it was like, you know, remember this is late 90s, early 90s football. You know, there was no social media, no internet.
No.
So we had a great time. We really did. And the characters around me, Ian Wright, I come in with when he was there, Kitson, Monkey, Lomi. I mean, I love all them senior players around me at the time. You know, I spoke to other senior young players who coming through other clubs, and the culture was the senior players were quite. There was a little bit of a bullying culture around football at that time. You know, it wasn't bad, and I don't want to look back at it with disdain, because that's how football was, a tough game, a man's game. You had to earn your stripes. But them senior players were so good for me. Like, they were so like welcoming. You know, I mean, they didn't pussyfoot around me. Like, I got told when I was out of line, and I got dealt with. But they were just great. Like, honestly, I can't think of a better. I wouldn't change it for the world. Put it this way, it was chaos, and it was how not to be footballers, how not to do it. But like you said, the fans loved it, we loved it, and it will always have that part in the history, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think it also is like, you know, it seemed, and I mean, obviously you've been involved in football for a long time, but it seemed there was, you know, probably since that was probably the last real time. I mean, we've had Razor and we've had various others. And they talk about, you know, going out on Harry used to let him go out on a Tuesday night, and he was like, I didn't mind that because it meant I know I could have a beer on a Tuesday, and I could, you know, not have a beer, on a Friday, Saturday, you know. So, and actually, you know, Sinks and people like that. So, you know, I totally, and I think that's why football fans loved that period, you know, the likes of yourself, Monks, because it was relatable. You know, it's like, I mean, I lived in Loughton at the time, and I would see Paul Kitson, and it's my most random football spot ever, in Woolworths buying a big bag of pick a mix, you know. But it was like, you know, but that's like nowadays they're, you know, a lot of money, good luck to them. They tend to be in Canary Wharf or something like that. So you don't get that excitement of walking in. I mean, I used to work at the Safeways in Loughton, and I told Shaka this. He used to do his big shop on a Friday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you'd see
I bet it was a big shop, wasn't it? With Shaka as well. Bet some food.
You'd see him
put
ahead.
some food around.
But you'd see him over the thing because he was so tall over the aisles. But I used to love that. Football was relatable. And as you said, it was like there's no social media. You know, you could live your life normally, really. And actually, I remember one goal you scored. Definitely, it was Nottingham Forest in the cup. I remember that at home, 3-2. I think it was just beginning of January, because I was doing the stadium announcing that day, and I thought, you know what, it was my first time. I thought, I'm gonna have a go. I'm gonna have a proper go, and not just say, you know, goal, You know, I was gonna make a big thing out of it.
Yeah.
So I was practicing. I thought, if Joe scores, I'm gonna say, right, you know, goal for West Ham. He always believes in his soul, number 26, Joe Cole. Thought it was really nice. You fucking scored. So and I got a bit excited. So I was like, goal for West Ham, number 20. He always believes in his soul, number 26. And then I lost my breath. Joe. And I thought I got away with that. And then I got about 4 or 5 texts afterwards. Joe Russ? Joe? But I love that time. And obviously, you know, relatively success, you know, under obviously Harry and Glenn came in, you know, 5th and 7th, obviously Intertoto Cup, played in Europe as well.
Yeah. Won the Intertoto Cup.
Won the Intertoto Cup. Exactly.
Still haven't got a medal. Don't know where that's gone. They forgot. I think the UEFA forgot the medals. That's what they thought about that cup.
Well, especially when they got 3 winners as well, weren't it?
I know.
You know what I mean? We had Mince on the other day, and he still talks about it. And I said, we talk about Europe. He went, "No, I mean, we won the cup in 1999."
Yeah.
I think Mets were like really fucked off, innit? Because we played at the final at Mets, and there's practically no footage of like pictures like afterwards. There might be some grainy ones and stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, we got Seb. Oh, Shem was coming. Yeah, I'm seeing him on Friday. Actually. So we'll be talking about that then. But great times. And then obviously Glenn came in, and obviously things might have changed. Definitely changed a little bit. You know, I think, to be fair, obviously 7th under Glenn, and then the 42 season, as I call it. I mean, we've had JMO and stuff on people like that who still can't. He still can't sleep sometimes at night thinking about that season.
It's a blip.
What happened?
It's a blip. It's just, I think at the start of the season, I think we finished 7th.
Yeah.
You know, and at the start of the season, I was like, right. Speaking to Glenn, and he was then speaking to like the CEO, and I said, well, we need to kick on here. You know, like we're 7th now. And then we didn't spend the money wisely. That's for sure. And I felt we was quite small as a squad compared to others. Like we had a good, really good 11. Then we had some players who were maybe just getting past their primes at the back end of it. And so whenever we suffered with injuries, and we had a spell where we had no strikers, Paolo was injured, Freddie and Defoe. I don't think we picked up a win, and it affected us. We had a terrible start.
Yeah.
Sendings of all of the things, like you look back, like they're not excuses. You're looking for reasons, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, all of the plaudits you get in your career, you sometimes when things don't go well, that sticks with you as well, and it's hard to say. But it was a culmination of bad planning from the owners, bad recruitment, injuries.
And luck as well, bad luck as
and
well.
Luck, and definitely luck. Like J-Mo himself, one of the top goalies of his generation, I'd probably say one of the most difficult seasons of his career. He would probably admit that. He does a lot of the senior players weren't at their tops, top performances we'd seen of them, and it was a tough time for me and I got the captaincy in like March, I think, and I think Glenn was looking like, he's like, I think I'm probably the only one playing well to my level.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean? And it was like, I think it was more to do with that rather than I don't think he would have wanted to give it to a 21-year-old, but I think he didn't want to, but he was like, I think I was the only one who was, because West Ham's a difficult club to play for if you haven't got a specific mindset, because the expectations are massive. And when things go wrong, the fans will let you know, because there's that's how it is. Some fans are a bit more patient than others. Like you go and play for Bournemouth, for instance. No disrespect to Bournemouth, but you're not going to get the highs and you're not going to get the lows. It's just going to be in the middle.
Steady Eddie,
I think some players in that team found it very difficult to go and do their job under the light, under the pressure. And I think that cost us, and that's not the fans' fault, of course not. It's our fault for not dealing with. We're the only ones who can control it. But I think the only reason I got Glenn, I think we had the conversation. He said, and it was you're the only one who's going. You're one of the only ones who's going to get on the ball, make things out, give me, and that was always. I had to do that. That was my game, because I had to go and get the balls wherever I could. But I think there was more the reason that. So it was tough. Tough to take at the time, but also very proud to do it at such a young age. You know what I mean? So that was good.
And as you alluded to back at the beginning, obviously it was relatively bittersweet as well, because obviously, personally, you became the captain of the club. You were there for the last 10 years or something like beforehand. You were Hammer of the Year that year as well.
Yeah.
And then you got relegated, and then obviously left. So it was a real sort of transitional time. But obviously went away.
Scored my first goal for England in that month as well.
You did, I know.
Yeah, so it was just a mental few months.
But as you said, yourself and Glenn going meant we didn't really have to sell anyone else, and Michael could stay for the first season in the season, and obviously then he moved on when we lost to Palace in the playoffs. But obviously you went away, went and had a very successful career and came back.